Welcome to episode 90. You mean you so mean? That's what I got to asking myself the other day, and it had nothing to do with any closed captioning riddle. You see, as I brought up in episode 74, Avoidance Hurts, I've suffered a hurt of the heart many times. And as I described in episode 14, somebody has to have your heart in order to hurt it. And then you want to avoid that person, so it limits their ability to cure the hurt of the heart if they so desire. But recently, because of a sister of mine, I got to thinking about why I talk to some people who have given me a hurt of the heart while I totally avoid others. Let me tell you 4 rather personal stories. The first was a month or 2 ago when, after a phone chat, I was so close to falling back into the web of somebody who gave me a serious hurt of the heart. Why? Because I seriously would like me and the person to be friends. When I was able to stop myself, it made me realize why some people believe so much in religions that they feel give them the strength to avoid temptations. But for me, it wasn't religion. It was just deciding to respect myself and not let the person get away with not redeeming a heart, as I put it in episode 75. The second involves this dude I've known for perhaps 20 years and considered a friend. Over the years, like all friends, we have had our disagreements and quarrels, some quite harsh, but generally, eventually, we would be hanging out again. But it was always after I called to suggest we hang out. As I'd tell him, none of what we said or did to each other in our arguments rose to the level of a hurt of the heart. He knew me and he knew what I considered a hurt of the heart. This is because I told him. I told him since he refused to read my blog when I suggested he should in order to get to know me. That was a warning sign that I ignored. I continued to make the effort to keep our friendship going. But almost 2 years ago, I did something that I think may have caused him a hurt of the heart. I revealed to 2 persons we both knew something personal about him that he probably didn't want shared. I admitted and explained why I did what I did and nevertheless apologized. However, essentially, we stopped communicating. After several months, I reached out to him, as I seem to be always doing, and we met to hang out again. I was making an effort to cure any hurt of the heart I may have given him. But after a pleasant evening out, hanging out, drinking, shooting pool, as I drove him home, we got into a discussion that turned into an argument, and he cussed me out and told me to fuck off in a manner and with words that hurt my heart. All because he was high and totally misinterpreted something I said. Well, I didn't bother to explain since he doesn't read my blog and has no interest in anything Paul says. He won't be the wiser. But I haven't seen or spoken to him since, and I have no intention of reaching out to him again. The third story is about how some months ago one of my sisters did something similar. She cussed me out and told me to fuck off in a manner and with words that hurt my heart. All because she and my mother were upset when me and another sister spent an entire day with another family member who they seriously didn't like. I haven't seen or spoken to that sister since. In fact, I told a couple other siblings that she had lost a brother. I've been doing everything to avoid her, including not visiting our mother if she's there. So I asked myself recently, you mean you so mean? I mean, the question remains why I still talk with some people who have hurt my heart and not to some others. This is my sister. Internal joke, for Christ's sake. And she probably did what she did because of our mother. But this is also where the fourth story comes in. My mother has hurt the hearts of all her children multiple times in numerous ways all our lives. She has always been a bitter woman. She's old now with growing signs of Alzheimer's, but still cognizant enough in her words and actions to have all her children except me intensely disliking her. She's not my favorite person, but I've come to realize that essentially her nature is what it is and she is incapable of change. Anybody else I would keep my distance, but she's my mother, the singular person more than any other human being who is responsible for me coming into this world. Because every woman, each time she is about to become a mother, has a choice on whether to become a mother. So no matter what, even if you don't like her or get on well with her, you respect your mother as your mother. So I have a mother who has hurt my heart more than once, but I still see and talk to her. But the sister who was instigated to attack me by that same mother, I avoid. It made me question what I'd said about there being no degrees to a hurt of the heart. Well, I figure that at its root, a lack of respect is what causes someone to hurt your heart. That lack of respect could be callously intentional or come from callous indifference. And I've come to realize that people taking advantage of my forgiving and recycling nature is just another demonstration of them showing me their lack of respect. So generally, I've stopped reaching out. But I do not ignore the person who reaches out to me. And my mother keeps reaching out, so I respond because I respect her as my mother, even if I think she will never cure the hurt of the heart that she's caused. She's an old woman now with mental issues and she's just not capable. As we would say in Jamaica, I give her a bly. But as I have described it, you do not forget a hurt of the heart. In a way, you always remember the person that causes you a hurt of the heart because that person always remains in your heart. But some of the healing has to be internal before you can give them a chance at excising the hurt. And you have to protect your heart from further hurt. So sometimes you need time before you can stop avoiding the person and perhaps give them a chance of redeeming a heart. My sister and the other two people I mentioned above, I don't know if they are capable of redeeming a heart. Likely not. But they were able to hurt my heart because I was emotionally invested in my relationships with them. I defended them from others, yet they attacked me. For instance, even now I spend a lot of time defending the sister who attacked me from verbal tirades directed at her by our mother. But I can't forget that she couldn't do the same for me. So the response to "you mean you so mean?" for not just me, but anybody, pending some passage of time, the answer has to be yes.